The FIM Ice Speedway World Championships Dutch Grand Prix moves from its spiritual home in Assen to neighbouring town Heerenveen. A short trip for local supporters to a newly renovated indoor arena that's a perfect fit for the season finale. Round 4 of the series was the Gladiators' first 2017 trip to Europe for the German Grand Prix in capital city Berlin. Shadrinsk and Almaty double winner Igor Kononov had the championship momentum, but his 2-point deficit to main rival Dmitry Koltakov left no room for error, and he dropped further back after successive defeats in his last 2 heat races. In his 4th outing, Kononov had to come from the back to get the better of Stefan Svensson and Gunther Bauer, but fell short of race winner Dinar Valeev. And in his first direct matchup of the weekend with Dmitry Koltakov, it was the former champion who came out on top, opening his series lead to 4. A dramatic Heat 18 played a crucial role in deciding the top positions in the day's standings. Dmitry Kometsevich was disqualified in the initial running, and with an unfavourable seeding position, the 2016 world champion went on to just a single point, an elimination from his semi-final. Stefan Svensson was the next to go, crashing heavily whilst in the second position he needed to progress via the top 8, and that left Harold Simon to pick off Max Niedermeyer and make his first semi-final appearance of the season. At the sharp end of the field, Igor Kononov returned to winning ways with victory in the second semi-final, but Dmitry Koltakov completed a 7-ride maximum with the checkered flag in the final ahead of Kononov, who slipped 5 points in arrears with 3 meetings remaining. Koltakov conceded his first drop point of the weekend in his opening ride on day 2, but made up 2 on his main championship rival in Heat 14. Kononov could only manage 3rd position behind Dinar Valeev, while Koltakov marched on towards the semi-finals with a 3rd successive win. That result left Kononov up against Koltakov again in the semi-final stages, and there was no change in the pecking order. Koltakov taking control early on and taking a 7-point championship lead with him to the final. Kononov finally out-trapped Koltakov, who was forced to put in one of the rides of the season from 3rd to 1st to take the double in Berlin. Dmitry Koltakov ended Igor Kononov's momentum in the first 2017 weekend in Europe, and with back-to-back wins seized a commanding 8-point advantage heading into the final round of the campaign. The Dutch Ice Speedway Grand Prix opens in new surroundings in 2017, at the end of Assen's 40-year history with the sport. And there are also plenty of new faces emerging after a dearth of success at world level for the Netherlands. The first reserve for the meeting is 27-year-old Jasper Iverma, the former Moto3 rider who has transitioned to Ice Speedway this season. I was 6 years old when I saw my first Ice Speedway race alongside the Dutch DT. It was one of the big events that I always saw in my hometown Assen. When I finally walked into the paddock for the first time, I knew it was the place for me, but I couldn't combine it with a road racing career. So I decided to carry on with road racing and then take up Ice Speedway when a career there wasn't possible anymore. When you tell people that the sport is about racing on ice with no brakes and hundreds of spikes on the tyres, they don't believe you. But that's what I love about it. It's so spectacular and there's such an adrenaline rush. Ice Speedway is a pure form of racing. Iverma is just one of a series of new Dutch riders emerging at international level, with the Twinstra name still present in the paddock in 2017. After I stopped riding in 2011, I moved straight into coaching juniors. I started with a group aged 20 to 23, but most of them didn't really progress so well, so I changed to a younger age group, from 13 to 16.
Toen heb ik een jongere groep aangepakt waar mijn eigen zoon ook zat, van 13 tot 16 jaar.
One of those riders is my son Jimmy, and Bart Schaap also came out of that group. I feel that it's very important to maintain the sports tradition in this country. For me, this weekend is really important. It's crucial that we keep a Grand Prix in the Netherlands. Every sponsor, both my current sponsors and potential sponsors, come here, but they wouldn't be able to travel abroad to see what it is that I do. So for me, this is the most important weekend of the year.
Dat zou je in zo'n weekend perfect kunnen zien. En als het hier niet meer zou zijn, dan zou het wel ontzettend moeilijk worden.
Ice Speedway returns to the Chalf Ice Arena for the first time since 1987, when the venue hosted the World Team Championship won by Russia. But Heerenveen stages its first World Championship final in the recently refurbished stadium, starting what is hoped will be its own run of history in the sport. Dutch veteran Simon Reitsma joined the lineup as wildcard for the fourth successive season, with two young local qualified reserves completing the 18 participant riders in the Netherlands. A quirk of the draw threw the two lowest scoring permanent riders of the 2017 season against series reserve Timo Kankkunen and wildcard Simon Reitsma, giving each competitor a chance at major points in the opening round of heats. The most experienced of the quartet, Czech representative Jan Klatowski, seized the lead in the early stages, pursued by Hans Weber. But the German's chances of a semi-final took a blow with a heavy fall on the penultimate lap, and he appeared in just one more of his scheduled rides on the opening day in the Netherlands. Franz Zorn provided the entertainment in Heat 2 after an uncharacteristically poor start, the Austrian having to work his way through from the back to take second position. The former world number 2 demonstrated his versatility and speed with an outside pass on Ove Ledstrom before gaining ground on Stefan Svensson and cutting ahead of the veteran in the run to the flag. And Nicholas Svensson also lost out on the final lap when, poised for second, his bike let him down just 2 turns from the finish line. Harold Simmons swept through for 2 points, narrowly holding back Max Niedermeyer in third.
Heat 4, daar gaan we uw aandacht voor gaan.
3 of the top 4 in the championship standings met in the last of the round 1 heat races, with Dmitry Koltakov taking his first race victory against stiffer competition than Igor Kolonov's win in Heat 3. Dinar Vanev was unable to make much of an impact off the outside gate and came in third behind Dmitry Kometsevich, but ahead of Günther Bauer at the back. After the completion of one outing per rider, both Jan Klatowski and Timo Kankkunen sat unusually inside the top 8 thanks to an understrength Heat 1. Dinar Valeev was the only Russian with work to do to move back into the provisional qualification positions. Only 2 of the 4 riders in the original starting lineup for Heat 5 actually completed the race, as a disastrous start to the weekend for Germany's trio continued. Hans Weber, Günther Bauer and Max Niedermeyer managed just 1 point between them in the opening block of heats, and neither scored in their second outing. Niedermeyer disqualified after a fall out the back, and Hans Weber exceeding the 2-minute time allowance for the rerun. That gave Jasper Iverma his first World Championship ride and his first point as well, taken behind Dinar Valeev and Ove Ledstrom in the 3-rider Heat 5. The referee declared an unsatisfactory start to Heat 6, enabling all 4 riders to restart after an alarming first bend collision. Sweden's Nicholas Svensson was trapped between Dmitry Kometsevich and Franz Zorn in the run down to the first turn, and going down brought the Austrian with him into the safety barriers. Thankfully, both riders were fit to reprise their roles in the rerun, where Komet commanded the inside to win ahead of Zorn. Svensson picking up his first point of the day in third. At the top of the standings, Dmitry Koltukov made it 6 successive wins over Igor Kononov to bring his championship lead up to 9 points and continue his dominant form from Berlin. Harold Simon enjoyed his best weekend of the season at the final round, his form gradually improving in 2017 as the effects of pre-season injuries have waned. The Austrian cut past Günther Bauer and Stefan Svensson brilliantly on the opening lap of Heat 8 to move on to 5 points from 2 rides and maintain his position within the provisional qualification places. Dmitry Koltukov was the only unbeaten rider after 2 rounds of heats, joined in the top 8 by all of his fellow countrymen after Dinar Valeyev's Heat 5 win. Several big names sat outside of the qualification spaces, and a fight for 8th place already looked likely to develop, with 3 rounds still to come. Nine points down on Dmitry Komet, Igor Kononov's championship chances were gradually slimming with each passing ride. He returned to winning ways with an opening lap pass on Franz Zorn in Heat 9, but Dmitry Koltukov immediately responded next time out with a race victory of his own. Harold Simon moved 1 step closer to securing a place in the semi-finals with another solid 2nd place finish after an entertaining 2-lap scrap with Sweden's Ove Ledstrom. The Austrian seemed to have successfully made his move on the youngster on lap 2, only for Ledstrom to respond. But the Swede lost control on the top bend heading into the final lap, and Simon was close enough to bounce. Dmitry Komet was the pre-race favourite as the only Russian representative in Heat 11, and from the outside gate he duly delivered a 2nd race victory of the day. Behind him, Stefan Svensson took 2nd, while Timo Kankanen's challenging first World Championship season continued as he ended the race on the deck for a 2nd consecutive non-scoring outing. After disappointment with the first ride retirement and blighted with mechanical problems throughout the weekend, Niklas Svensson produced an excellent ride to put the finishing touches to the 3rd round of heats with 2nd place ahead of Daniel Ivanov in Heat 12. Stefan Svensson moved into the last of the provisional qualification positions with a 2-point buffer behind to his nearest rival. Meanwhile, with a surprise success over Daniel Ivanov in Heat 12, Niklas Svensson had kept himself in contention for semi-final progression. Daniel Ivanov's consistency in pursuit of a semi-final place continued in Heat 13, but he was beaten by all of his fellow countrymen on day 1 in Heerenveen. Dmitry Komet was the latest to beat him to the checkered flag, with a 3rd successive win for the outgoing world champion. Jan Klatowski's battle with Stefan Svensson was interrupted by a fall for Dinar Valeyev in Heat 14, but the pair went straight back to it in the rerun, and this time over 2nd after the Russians' disqualification. Klatowski put in a strong challenge to take 2nd position on the opening lap, but Svensson was persistent. The Swedish veteran was able to fight his way back through on lap 3 before holding on in a photo finish. Reserve Jasper Iverma delighted the home crowd and surprised Ove Ledstrom with a brilliant ride in Heat 15, overhauling the promising young Swede for 3rd position on lap 3 and battling to the finish. But the Dutchman's inexperience at World Championship level finally saw him succumb on the final lap when he lost control and left the circuit. Dmitry Koltukov completed the 4th round of heats with his 4th victory, Franz Zorn continuing his run of second places behind, and Max Niedermayer collecting the single points. With a sole round of heats remaining, only Niklas Svensson remained in a realistic position to upset the top 8 after his impressive recovery and Heat 15 race win. 3 riders sat tied just a point above him, but with 2 of them Russian favourites Valleev and Ivanov, Niklas's best hope was to beat his father Stefan in Heat 17. The father and son pair got out of the start together in the race, battling for second behind Dmitry Koltakov, and after the Swedes almost made contact at the end of the opening lap, Niklas seemed set for a second place that would have booked him a semi-final position at his father's expense. But another last lap mechanical failure dropped him out of the running, a shame given his earlier form against Russian riders that could have seen him challenge again in the semi-finals. Daniil Ivanov was the comfortable Heat 18 winner, but the more interesting battle took place behind him, when Max Niedermayer, Günther Bauer and Jan Klatowski all held second position at one stage. Bauer looked set to move above the Czech in the day's standings as he held him at bay, but the former world number 2 was too defensive coming into lap 3, and Klatowski cut back up the inside to take the place. Harold Simon took his first double-figure score of the campaign thanks to a surprise Heat 19 win over Dinar Valleev and Franz Zorn. The Austrian veteran stunned both with a perfect cutback off turn 2, moving to block the Russian youngster into bend 3, and from there he was forced to hold on under pressure, with Valleev coming back at him on the final lap, but just falling short in the run down to the line. Each of the top 3 in the heats comfortably moved through to the semi-finals nonetheless. A top-end error from Dmitry Komitsevich gave Igor Kononov the lead and victory in the last of the qualifying heats. The reigning champion then forced to work hard to get back on terms with Ove Ledstrom on what had been an underwhelming day for the Swedes. Niklas Svensson's mechanical retirement in Heat 17 had decided the last of the qualifiers, but Harold Simon produced the biggest surprise of the heat stages to qualify as 4th seed after victory in Heat 19. The first of 2 semi-finals to decide the qualifiers for the final. Off the inside gate in red, Dmitry Koltakov, the championship leader, unbeaten during the heats. Gate 2 in blue, Harold Simon, 4th seed to the semi-finals after his best qualifying performance since 2013. Gate 3 in white, Dinar Valleev, 9 points from 5 rides, but both of his 2 victories came from the inside gate, and he goes off gate 3 here. Franz Zorn off the outside, yet to win a heat here this weekend, bidding for his 4th final of the campaign. A poor start for Harold Simon. It's his fellow countryman Franz Zorn who gets away fastest, but it's Dmitry Koltakov who picks it up coming off turn 2. Koltakov leading Valleev, immediately dropping back. In fact, the young Russian struggling on the top turn. Franz Zorn overhauled by Harold Simon, but the veteran's gone down. Separated from the machine and into the barrier heavily. No doubt about who was the cause of the stoppage there. Harold Simon will find himself disqualified from the rerun. So 3 riders only for the second time of asking. Dmitry Koltakov off gate 1, Dinar Valleev gate 3, and Franz Zorn off the outside. Can the Austrian make another fast start, this time with only 2 riders on the inside of him in the run down to the first turn? No, this time he's not made such a good one, and in fact it's Valleev who's got away best, but it's Dmitry Koltakov who gets across the front of him into turn number 3. The ice really starting to rut up and the riders struggling to hold on to the machine. And this is where upper body strength comes into play. It's Dmitry Koltakov who leads for now. Little more than a bike's length advantage over Dinar Valleev in second, but it's the top 2 places that count, of course, in determining progression through to the final. And as it stands, it would be Franz Zorn who would be eliminated. Disappointment for him because the disqualification of Harold Simon certainly gave him a second attempt at trying to beat one of these 2 Russians. But he's not going to match either Dmitry Koltakov or Dinar Valleev, who lead into the final lap. A faultless weekend continues for Dmitry Koltakov, A good effort on the opening two turns from Dinar Valeev. You fancy he needed to get there ahead of Koltykov, really, coming off the second bend to challenge the rider who is looking set to become world champion this weekend. Koltykov dominant, wins in semi-final number 1. Valeev also marching on. It's Franz Zorn and Harold Simon, the two Austrians, eliminated from semi-final 1. The first real potential banana skin of the meeting for Igor Kononov, who's 12 points down now on Dmitry Koltykov in the championship and must take advantage of this ride in hand here. Kononov off 1, dropped just 1 point during the heats. Kometsevich alongside him, the outgoing world champion, off gate 2. Daniil Ivanov, himself a two-time former world champion, off gate 3. And Stefan Svensson off the outside. Good start off gate number 2. It's Dmitry Kometsevich who gets the whole shot, but he runs wide coming off the second bend and is now under pressure from Daniil Ivanov. Possibly the stronger of the two semi-finals, this one, but Ivanov isn't at his best with that shoulder injury he's been carrying through 2017. In fact, Ivanov has dropped back from the front too and is under pressure from Stefan Svensson. The Swedish veteran looking to the inside there coming off turn 2. Ivanov just about holding him off for now, but looking far from confident. And actually, if anything, starting to hold back Stefan Svensson slightly. The race lead is with Igor Kononov, doing what he needs to do in the context of the championship. The rider's set to be eliminated in 3rd and 4th positions at the moment to Daniil Ivanov and Stefan Svensson. And Ivanov's more concerned about Svensson behind him than he is about Dmitry Kometsevich up ahead, showing a real lack of confidence here. Daniil Ivanov, as he looks set to bow out on day 1 in Heerenveen at the expense of his fellow countrymen. It's Igor Kononov who takes the checkered flag. Dmitry Kometsevich home in 2nd. A big gap then to Daniil Ivanov in 3rd, who is eliminated alongside Stefan Svensson with just a point score between them there. On to the final. Dmitry Koltykov goes off the inside gate 6, rides unbeaten, looking for his first maximum score of the campaign. Gate 2 in blue, Igor Kononov, already 4 times a winner in 2017, 9 points to make up on Koltykov overall. Gate 3 in white, Dmitry Kometsevich beaten by both Kononov and Koltykov in the heats, the outsider, and Dinar Valeev still looking for his first meeting win in his debut season. Well, a very poor start there from Dinar Valeev. The other 3 are away well, and it's Igor Kononov who cuts back to the inside coming off turn 2 to burst briefly ahead of Dmitry Koltykov. The pair side by side then into turn 3. Koltykov has the faster run on the outside line. Kononov gets a bit of lift at the end of the opening lap and drops back into 2nd. The top 2 in the World Championship now back in championship order. Kononov could do with beating Koltykov every time these two meet, but Koltykov has been almost untouchable for some time now. And certainly since the series moved to Europe, he has looked the dominant force. Little to choose between these two in the final. Koltykov ahead of Kononov, Kometsevich back in 3rd. The top 4 in the world are going to finish in championship order in the first ever event here in Heerenveen in the individual World Championship. Koltykov now starting to extend his lead. This is going to be more good news in the series overall for him. As they come out of turns 3 and 4 for the final time, Dmitry Koltykov on one wheel becomes the first ever Grand Prix winner in Heerenveen. Congratulations from Igor Kononov, but that's another damaging ride in the context of the championship for him, as he is beaten twice in one day by his main championship rival. Koltykov takes it, Kononov in 2nd, Dmitry Kometsevich in 3rd, and Dinar Valeev retiring in the closing stages of the final. So the top 3 are only beaten by one another on day 1 in Heerenveen, creating large points deficits between each of the top 3 in the official results. The meeting was good. I'm just a little bit disappointed to have missed the starts in the finals, but overall I'm satisfied today. I'm quite pleased with my performance. I'm not going to make any changes for tomorrow. As far as I'm concerned, I've already lost out on my first championship, so I'm just going to ride relaxed.
Абсолютно спокоен, никаких предпринимать сверхъестественных действий не собираюсь.
Today was a very successful day for me. I will try to repeat it tomorrow. I would particularly like to thank everyone who supports me, my team, mechanics and fans.
Спонсорам, всем болельщикам, кто меня поддерживает. Спасибо огромное. Я очень благодарен. Всем спасибо.
With 8 points gained over Igor Kononov since the series moved to Europe, Dmitry Koltykov already had the championship within his grasp, and with the chance to seal the title in the heat stages on day 2 in the Netherlands. A 4th victory of the 2017 campaign for Koltykov, and the 3rd in succession, with just 1 point dropped in his last 21 rides. A perfect time to find form for Dmitry Koltykov. As the 2017 season draws towards its conclusion, each rider takes one memory into the summer, their best moments of the campaign. Bauer down the inside, cuts past in the run down to the line to take his first win of the campaign. And Bauer stuns Ivanov by carving his way through on the inside. Günter Bauer is through to the semi-finals for the first time in Russia.
The
first day in Togliatti has been my best moment of the GP season. I was really satisfied to be fighting with the Russians right from the start, and then to make the semi-finals after having to change to my spare bike. In the first heat, I had an engine failure whilst fighting with Comet Savage, but the rest of the day went really well, so that has to be the best moment of my season. Austria's Franz Zorn takes his 3rd win of the weekend, and he's set for the semi-finals. And after 3 consecutive wins, Daniil Ivanov is eliminated. At the hands of Franz Zorn, we have a European rider in the finals once again. Zorn provides the surprises in Togliatti. The best moment of my season was in Togliatti, making the final. I was in the yellow start position for the semi-final, but made a rocket start and held on for 2nd place ahead of Ivanov. Everyone knows what it's like in Togliatti. It's a special place. The weather was cold and the ice was very bumpy in the last heat. So that was the biggest highlight right at the beginning of the season. No doubt about it, the 21-year-old is a champion in the making. And the major surprise of the opening round is a debut race victory for Dinar Valeev, relegating former world champion Dmitry Koltykov to 2nd. And Valeev dumped Kononov out of the meeting to qualify for his first Grand Prix final. A dream debut weekend for Dinar Valeev, who steps up to the World Championship and straight up onto the podium. My rookie season has been a success because I never expected to be competing at this level. I had already ridden in the juniors, but it's completely different to take part in the World Championship. But in a way, it wasn't new for me to meet riders like Dmitry Koltykov, and I gave my best in every heat.
У них очень большие скорости. Я первый сезон из юниоров попал в мужики, вышел из юниоров, первый сезон попал в мужики, поехал, вот попал на гран-при и стараюсь, еду с ними наравне, грубо говоря. У них больше опыта, пока все, что могу, делаю.
And it's Igor Kononov who takes the checkered flag to become the 3rd different winner of the 2017 campaign. Kononov does the double in Shadrinsk. Igor Kononov makes it 4 successive wins, reigniting the championship chase. Kononov at his very best. I think my wins in Shadrinsk and Almaty were a big success because they came after a really bad weekend in Togliatti. I had a crash, lost a lot of points and was feeling very down. But in a way that made me more relaxed because there was no more pressure and I could do things in my own way. That helped me to win and I continued in this way, relaxing and enjoying my riding. And Dmitry Koltykov is back in business. Just 1 dropped point all weekend for the dominant Russian. Dmitry Koltykov takes back control of the championship chase. I was very satisfied to win on both days in Berlin. Germany was really a turning point for me because I was only beaten once by Dmitry Komentsevich and only dropped 1 point. I now have an 8-point advantage over Igor Kononov in the championship. That, along with my win in the Russian Championship, is probably my biggest moment of the season so far. But now I look forward to hopefully becoming world champion. The 16 riders returned for the final day of the 2017 season. A few of them somewhat worse for wear after some major crashes in the opening meeting. Included in that number were Franz Zorn and Niklas Svensson, who came together in Heat 6, the referee enabling both riders to return to the track for the rerun. I still feel some discomfort in my back and head, but I'll be okay. Hopefully I can ride as well as I did yesterday, but with some better luck with my engines today. Yesterday I had some really bad luck. In my first ride, the race was restarted after I beat Ivanov from the start. Then in my second ride against Svensson, we had a very big crash. It would have been very easy for him to turn left, but for the 4th time this season he rode straight into me. My shoulder is still in a bad condition, but hopefully I can still ride okay.
Sind nur 5 Punkte zu Ivanov und ja, werde mein Bestes geben und
Niklas Svensson and Franz Zorn renewed their rivalry as the riders took to the track for a second day of competition in Heerenveen and provided much of the entertainment in the battle for second place behind Stefan Svensson. A brilliant cutback off turn 2 on the second lap put Niklas ahead of Zorn, but he didn't hold the place for long, with mechanical problems seeing him drop back in each run down the straight. Zorn recovered second heading into the final lap, and although Svensson cut briefly back past, the Austrian had too much speed against the Swede's ailing machine and breezed away for the 2 points. A strong weekend for Harold Simon continued into the second day of competition, with a second place behind Dmitry Koltikov in Heat 2. The Austrian got the better of Günther Bauer on lap 2 before pulling comfortably away. Jan Klatowski moved above Hans Weber to 13th in the championship standings after his day 1 efforts. The pair were in direct competition in Heat 3, with Weber making the start over his rival and looking for his first points of the weekend in 3rd. Klatowski, though, gradually closed on the final lap before making an inside pass in the run down to the line. Igor Kononov was the comfortable Heat 4 winner, but behind him, Daniil Ivanov had a much harder time holding on to position ahead of Ove Ledstrom. The Swede kept the former world champion on his toes in the closing stages, but Ivanov just held on for second. Stefan Svensson was the winner of the only round 1 race without a Russian representative, getting the better of Franz Zorn in Heat 1. All 8 of the Day 1 semi-finalists were already back inside the provisional qualification positions. Three of round 1's 4 scoreless riders went head-to-head in Heat 5. Max Niedermayer taking his first points of the day in second, ahead of series reserve Timo Kankkunen and wildcard Simon Reitzma. Daniil Ivanov was again under pressure after making the start in his second outing. Franz Zorn close throughout Heat 6, but unable to find a way through. Ivanov, therefore, taking his first win of the day, and Zorn's advantage from 5th in the championship cut down to 4 points. A controversial Heat 7 saw 2 riders disqualified by referee Krista Gardell, both decisions ultimately having a major bearing on the last of the semi-final places. Harold Simon was the first rider ruled out after exceeding track limits in a 3rd-to-1st inside pass on lap 2, leaving him on just 2 points and with 4 Russian riders still to meet. Then in the rerun, Hans Weber and Stefan Svensson went down whilst contesting the lead on the final lap. Webber's disqualification left him still scoreless for the weekend, while Svensson made it 2 wins out of 2.
Is gedisqualificeerd, die rode lap is gaan branden.
Niklas Svensson was again the victim of a last lap overtake as he lost out on third position to Dinar Valev in Heat 8. Up front, Dmitry Koltakov beat championship rival Igor Kononov and extended his series lead to 11 points. Stefan Svensson, Dmitry Kometsevich and Dmitry Koltakov all remained unbeaten after their 2 opening rides, but the trio was set to meet in Heat 11. Further down the order, Ove Ledstrom moved into the top 8 at the expense of Harold Simon after the Austrian's Heat 7 disqualification. Igor Kononov took his second victory of the afternoon in Heat 9 to ensure Dmitry Koltakov would have to wait at least until the 4th round of heats to secure his second world title. Behind him, Hans Webber picked up his first points of the weekend, damaging Gunther Bauer's hopes of recovering a top 8 place. Dinar Valev secured his first race win of the day with a tapes-to-flag success from the inside gate in Heat 10. Behind him, Franz Zorn recorded a third successive 2-point score by getting the better of Ove Ledstrom. An eagerly anticipated Heat 11 saw 3 unbeaten riders hold the top positions until a lap 3 pass from Daniil Ivanov relegated Stefan Svensson to the back. The Swede remained inside the provisional qualification positions despite his first non-scoring ride. After his second ride disqualification, Harold Simon desperately needed a victory in Heat 12 with 2 tough rides still to come. But the Austrian had to fight hard to get the better of the on-form Swede, Niklas Svensson. Simon's first race victory of the day moved him on to 5 points, while Svensson remained on 3, but with 1 less Russian to meet in the remaining rounds. Harold Simon's third ride victory moved him back into the top 8, but with 3 riders directly behind him, including the unlucky Niklas Svensson. Ahead, a group of 4 Gladiators tied on 6 points were far from safe in the qualification positions either. Harold Simon's main challenge was to remain above the Swedish duo behind him, whilst also facing 4 of the 5 Russians in his next 2 outings. A damage limitation ride gave him 3rd in Heat 13, with Timo Kankkunen predictably at the back and Daniil Ivanov getting the better of one of his compatriots for the first time all weekend. With only 12 points available to Igor Kononov and his championship deficit sitting at 11, Dmitry Koltakov only needed 2 points from Heat 14 to secure the world title with 3 rides to spare. Unsurprisingly, he gated straight on towards the victory, the race itself unremarkable, aside from confirming the 2017 world champion, Dmitry Koltakov. Stefan Svensson was next up to secure his World Championship position, taking the 2 points he needed to guarantee he would finish above Gunther Bauer in the standings overall for 7th. The Swede certainly had a tough time keeping back Jan Klazowski, who really needed 2nd place himself for his pursuit of the semi-finals and cut past on lap 2. But Svensson showed his experience by calmly recovering the position, moving on to 8 points from 4 rides and to within a point of a semi-final space. Niklas Svensson was the fast starter in a Heat 16 that proved crucial in determining the last of the semi-final positions. Pre-race favourite Dmitry Kometsevich was somewhat hasty in his lap 2 attack on the Swede, bringing himself down and earning exclusion from the rerun. Both Niklas Svensson and Ove Ledstrom now sat in direct conflict for a provisional place in the top 8, and it was Ledstrom who succumbed to the pressure with his own lap 2 fall that ruled him out of contention. Svensson's victory at the 3rd time of asking moved him on to 6 points and ahead of Harold Simon on countback, the Austrian veteran needing to better Svensson's score in the final round to progress. Only the top 3 in the standings was certain of their semi-final places after 4 rounds of heats, with riders right the way down to 12th still in mathematical contention for progression. The most likely fight was between Niklas Svensson and Harold Simon, both of whom had already shown plenty of speed during the weekend. Niklas Svensson's second-place finish behind Daniel Ivanov in Heat 17 left him within touching distance of his third semi-final appearance of the season, and Harold Simon needing an unlikely race victory in his remaining ride to deny him. Simon took on Dmitry Kometsevich and Igor Kononov in Heat 18, but was never in contention. Kometsevich victorious, Kononov close throughout. Jasper Iverma made his third appearance of the weekend as track reserve in Heat 19 and impressed by overtaking Gunther Bauer on lap 3. But he was denied what would have been a first major scalp by falling on the final lap, giving Bauer the consolation point for third. And there were more spectacular incidents in the last of the heat races. Ove Ledstrom suffered a second successive disqualification and dropped outside of the top 10 in the championship standings overall. And after a close fight for second in the rerun, Jan Klotowski was disqualified for bringing down Timo Kankkunen on the final 2 turns, giving the Finn his best result of the day.
Ja, dan komt Klotowski. En dan ga je rustig door. En daar gaat ons
Niklas and Stefan Svensson moved through together to the semi-finals for the second time, alongside Franz Zorn and the 5 Russian favourites at the top of the heat standings. The first of 2 semi-finals of the inside start position in red, Dmitry Koltakov, the newly crowned 2 times world champion, with no pressure on his shoulders after a maximum score in the heats. Alongside him, Dmitry Kometsevich. A fall in Heat 16 denied him an inside gate for the semi-final stage, but he'll still be expected to progress here. In white, it's Niklas Svensson. The Swede has been making things difficult for the Russian riders this weekend. Could he surprise either of 2 world champions to make his first career podium? And it's father and son off the outside gates, with Stefan Svensson completing the lineup for semi-final 1. Good start off gate 2 from Dmitry Kometsevich. Stefan Svensson was there or thereabouts as well, but it's Dmitry Koltakov who cuts through, making 2 overtaking manoeuvres for the lead. Svensson from first to last as Niklas Svensson comes through and up into third place, and now up into second at the end of the opening lap, challenging on the inside of Dmitry Kometsevich. The Russian couldn't quite get across back down into turns 1 and 2, and Svensson, with a block pass over the course of 3 turns there, has been able to claim second position. Well, this is a real giant-killing mission here from Niklas Svensson. Koltakov and Kometsevich, the 2 most recent world champions, were expected to progress, but it's Niklas Svensson, the Swedish youngster, who's under siege here. It's the inside line with Kometsevich, who moves to block, and well, that's only lasted heading into the final lap, and what a good ride that was from Niklas Svensson, who very nearly pulled off the shock of the weekend here in Heerenveen by getting ahead of Dmitry Kometsevich at the end of the opening lap and holding on for about half the race's distance, and he's not far behind in the drag race down to the line either, but it's Dmitry Kometsevich who holds on. Koltakov and Kometsevich marching through as expected, but Niklas Svensson much closer than anticipated as he drops out from third. Franz Zorn has beaten both Daniil Ivanov and Dinar Valeev to make finals this season. The lone non-Russian in this one has one last chance to make a podium in 2017. This race could also decide the battle for 5th in the championship overall. It's Igor Kononov off 1, Daniil Ivanov alongside him, Dinar Valeev gate 3, and Franz Zorn off the outside for semi-final 2. Fast starts from gates 2 and 4. It's Franz Zorn with the whole shot. The Austrians got there. They're 4 abreast coming off turn number 2. And it's Daniil Ivanov who loses out down the back straight as the race comes to a halt. And Dinar Valeev getting out of shape as well there. He'll be grateful for the stoppage because it's going to give him a second attempt here at semi-final number 2. Well, Igor Kononov has been disqualified for exceeding track limits on the opening 2 turns as he tried to get back through from 4th to 1st. And that means the 2017 world number 2 is going to miss out on the last final of 2017. We go again with a 3-rider restaging, Ivanov, Valeev and Zorn. A great opportunity for the Austrian here after his fast start in the initial running. It's not such a good gate this time. It's Daniil Ivanov who gets there first, and then Dinar Valeev moving through into second place coming off turn 2. Zorn has demonstrated on several occasions this season that he has the pace of these two riders up ahead of him, but can he make an overtake in the second semi-final to get through to the final? Daniil Ivanov starting to pull away here. An advantage for him not to have a rider on the inside of him down to the first turn in the restaging. And he is bursting away, not showing any ill effects of the injury that's affected him to such a great extent in 2017. The battle is still for second, the decisive place in terms of qualification to the final. Valeev losing a little bit of traction as he went into turn 3 there. The momentum is with Franz Zorn as they go into the final lap. Zorn diving down the inside to take second place away. Valeev has cut back coming off turn number 2 and he's made the move stick. That's brilliant for second position in the closing stages. Valeev tries to keep it tight. Valeev does keep it tight. And it's Ivanov and Valeev who move through. Franz Zorn will be eliminated despite a valiant effort that saw him hold a qualification position provisionally there on the final lap. The glory of winning the last meeting of the season is what's up for grabs, with all championship positions now decided. Dmitry Koltykov on gate 1, unbeatable all weekend, looking to replicate Kononov's Shadrin's double, but over 14 rides. Daniil Ivanov off gate 2, the surprise winner of the second semi-final. He's found some form late on with 3 wins in succession to take 5th in the world. Gate 3 in white, Dmitry Komitsevich, the outgoing 2016 world champion. And Dinar Valeev off the outside, looking to become the 4th different Grand Prix winner in 2017. Koltykov, Ivanov, Komitsevich and Valeev. And it's from inside to out that they've made the break, but it's Koltykov who gets there first. Ivanov straight back to the inside line to block out Dinar Valeev. And we have 2 races in 1 immediately here, with Dmitry Koltykov sprinting away out in front, the 2017 world champion. And Dinar Valeev cutting past Daniil Ivanov there at the end of the opening lap, coming off turn number 4. Ivanov running wide and trying to build up his momentum, but Valeev going the shortest way around the circuit. And these now look likely to be the finishing positions. Gaps between the riders gradually spreading, with Koltykov looking comfortable on his way towards an unbeaten weekend. Looking set for 14 race victories out of 14. Dmitry Koltykov heading into the final lap to do the double here in Heerenveen. He will remain the only rider to have won around this circuit in individual competition. Around the final 2 turns for the final time, then Koltykov in front, ahead of Komitsevich, ahead of Ivanov. Oh, Koltykov's lost it, inexplicably, with victory sewn up. The 2017 world champion, previously unbeaten here this weekend, has gone down into the barriers. Well, thankfully, straight back up to his feet as the other 3 commiserate with him, but no doubt will be grateful for an extra opportunity to appear 1 position higher on the podium. Komitsevich, Valeev and Ivanov. So a fall in the final for Dmitry Koltykov spreads the points more evenly among the top 4 than otherwise would have been the case, with the top scorer and world champion classified 4th. I'm very satisfied with this result. Of course, Koltykov fell as you saw in the final, but I've been battling with a shoulder injury, so I'm happy with this podium.
Сама гонка прошла нормально, полуфинал выиграл, получилось, что попал в финал. Ну а в финале уже, как сами видели, получилось так, что Дима упал.
Today was a very good day for me. We've had some problems with the bike, but we got on top of them today, and I gave everything they had. And you could see it in the results.
Вчерашние неполадки мы устранили на сегодня, и вот результат серебро.
It was a very strange meeting. Firstly, I fell in Heat 16. It wasn't a bad one, but they're never good either. And then in the final, Koltykov gave me a present of the top step of the podium. Thank you to all of my sponsors and mechanics. A last bend fall gives Dmitry Komitsevich his 2nd victory of the campaign, a consolation to the outgoing world champion, with the championship positions already decided before the final. Dmitry Koltykov takes his 2nd world title by a massive 15-point margin. Gaps between each of the top 5 significant in the end. Last year I lost out by a point to Dmitry Kometsevich, but every round this season I felt stronger than him, so I was sure that I could be world champion. Every meeting has been difficult, but by today it was almost certain that I would win, and I'm very pleased to be back on the top step of the podium. After missing out by a single point in 2016, Dmitry Koltykov makes it a second world title in 3 years.